Mosa Lina is one of the most refreshing, most brilliant games I've played in a very long time, and has quickly become one of my favorite titles. I first heard about it through a Rock Paper Shotgun article which quoted the game's tagline, "A hostile interpretation of the immersive sim." The immersive sim is my favorite type of game, and it was the subject of a video I put out a year ago, to which a younger and more naive me tried and failed to explain what an immersive sim really is. That video does an alright job of going over Arcane's Prey, but that's about all it does. And the question what defines an immersive sim is one I hope to tackle in a future video. Immersive sims will still play a role in this video, but the focal point of it is Mosa Lina. In this game, you are given a random selection of tools and plopped right into a level and asked to solve it. There is no tutorial, but you are given some tidbits of info in what seems like a sort of intermissionary level. You have to figure out how the game works yourself, which sets the tone for the entirety of the gameplay. The first couple times playing will be trial and error, figuring out what tools do what, how this block differs from others that make up the level. You'll probably think that some of the tools are useless at first, but as you play more, through more trial and error, you'll understand that through your own creativity, resourcefulness, and nothing else, that these tools, all of them, are incredibly useful. And when you do come up with a solution, that solution is solely yours, because every tool you get is random, and you'll almost never be sure what level you'll be thrown right into. There is no concrete path on how to beat it. Your tools are random, but Mosa Lina's rules are not. In order to beat a level, you have to activate a portal, and to do so, you either have to come in contact with fruit or knock it off the screen. The latter of which, if it happens to you, will kill you. Once you understand the game better, it makes sense why Mosa Lina doesn't have a tutorial. There is no exact way to use the tools it gives you. You could stack up boxes high to get somewhere otherwise out of reach. You could use them as a double jump midair, or to weigh down a platform, and do much more. And that's not even considering how you can use them in conjunction with other tools and objects in the environment. Beating a level feels incredibly rewarding since you plan for the game, but it does not plan for you. Think of games like Dishonored, Prey, or Deus Ex. These games, like Mosa Lina, have multiple ways to complete a level. Unlike Mosa Lina, they plan for those alternative ways. Dishonored plans for you to sneak past enemies by placing blind spots in convenient places for you to traverse to out of sight. It will also plan for you to go in sword in hand and take them all down. Because of this, there are concrete paths for you to follow in games like Dishonored. There is more than one concrete path, and you are free to pick which one and even swap between them mid-playthrough, and that wonderful handcrafted experience of immersive sims could be a video all on its own. But Mosa Lina breaks that over its knee. There is no strict solution. Your way of playing is unique, and is something you and you alone came up with. It almost feels like a creative writing prompt. You're given a prompt by some outside source, and with that limited direction you can create anything, be it a simple story or an imaginative masterpiece. It feels like that's how the idea of Mosa Lina came to be. It borrowed the simple immersive sim design of multiple ways to solve a level and turned that into something incredibly unique. Mosa Lina and immersive sims in general are a great example of why player agency is so important and engaging. To me, the best kind of game is one I can impact while I play. A game that is always subject to change because of me and nothing else. That emergence of game design is hard for me to even put into words, and it's most definitely even harder to design. It's easier to watch, but even then, watching or reading about it doesn't really do it justice, without I've already experienced it to the degree of games like Mosa Lina. Control Alt Ego is another indie game that I've really been enjoying. It's an immersive sim, and it's probably the greatest one to come out in a very long time. It follows the idea of solving a level your own way, much closer to the traditional immersive sims except for one major difference. You cannot die in Control Alt Ego. You can only get disembodied. I bring this game up because it has one line in particular that really made me stop and think about immersive sim design. You reach a certain area in the game that emphasizes different pathways and different approaches to the problem, and the character guiding you through the game, Dr. Everyman, tells you this.
You're not bad at this debugging stuff. Mr. Hefe is up ahead. You need to get access to the remote debugger stop button. I favor a cautious, planned assault. But there is no right way, and if things do go wrong, there are numerous remedial measures open to you, such as running or hiding or reprinting. One could even speculate that this entire enterprise has been contrived to make failure virtually impossible. Although it's probably best I don't draw attention to that.
And it's a reminder that if you have multiple ways to tackle a level, then you have to make sure they all work and that nothing will conflict or end in failure. So how does Mosa Lina manage to make every solution seemingly unique and make sure that everything can result in a win? Well, it doesn't. The game will tell you itself. Sometimes you can win, sometimes you cannot. At first, that frustrated me, but in reality I think it's one of the most boldest moves you can pull off when designing a game. And it only works in Mosa Lina's favor. It adds to that trial and error aspect I was talking about before. Even when you fail, you learn, you think, okay, that almost worked. Now I have a better understanding of how this mechanic works and what this tool does. Dying is frustrating, but the theme of the game is a very comforting and almost encouraging one. The score you get for completing a level doesn't really mean anything. The game would tell you that itself. And it also encourages you. If you can manage to learn something when you die, then dying isn't a loss. Control-Alt-Ego is an amazing game, and it sits right next to Mosa Lina as one of my favorite titles. The games are the exact same and complete opposites in some cases, and Control-Alt-Ego deserves an entire video on its own. The final levels in Mosa Lina are probably the most impressive part of the game. A good boss fight and good final level should be tests for the player. The game should take what it taught them and make them apply all of it there, similar to doing smaller, more specialized assignments before you eventually have to take a bigger, more generalized test. Mosa Lina does that expertly, putting you in a bigger level that you will fail at and fail again until you start to get better and closer to completing it each time. Mosa Lina is by all accounts a random game, but in spite of this, you never feel lucky for completing a level. You only ever feel smart.